My name is Domenico Di Siena. I have the pleasure to welcome you to the second session of Fab City Hub Voices program. Let me say a few words about this program. Fab City Hub Voices is a series of webinars to learn about creative and productive hubs. We are focused in Europe, and we are looking for challenges involved in the activation of these projects, but especially we want to discover the opportunities these kind of hubs open up for the local innovation ecosystem. This program is produced by the Parisian agency Volumes with a long experience in activation of creative and productive hubs. Volumes, I have to say, is an agency I am really proud to be part of. And this initiative is also part of the European project Centrino, in which we are supporting the creation of 9 Fab City hubs in all Europe. A new generation of hubs for circular and productive cities. Before I go on, I would like to introduce you to the people who are with me today. So I am with our guest, Tessa Moroder, who together with her sister, Arianna, is the founder of Lottozero, textile laboratories, a center for textile design, art and culture, with an open lab for textile production, experimentation and research in Prato, Italy. Hello, Tessa, how are you?
Hi, Domenico. I'm great. I'm excited about this.
Thanks for your time. I think we will enjoy a lot this session with you. So before I continue, I would like to remind to the attendees, by the way, welcome to all of you. We are really happy to have you here live. So I would like to remind you that this actually is an event with an audience. So you, the participants, you had the opportunity to make comments and questions, and we will be really interested in hear from you and discussing with you in the second part of the session. So during the presentation, feel free to post any comments and questions, so we could be prepared for the second part and having rich conversation. So I have to say that for this part, I am helping by my colleague Carlotta Fontana. Carlotta Fontana is a project manager for Volumes at Centrino, and Carlotta actually has been researching the historical evolution of hubs among other activities related with this project. So she will be the right person to connect the question you will be proposing during this session with all the research we are doing within this European research project. So I would like to say hello, Carlotta, hello.
Hi, hello everybody. Very happy to be here to meet Tessa and to hear at your question. So don't hesitate to put in the thread, and I will be taking care of this. And at the end, I will try to join all the questions and asking Tessa to answer. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Carlotta. So I insist again, please post your comment and question even during the session. So Carlotta could make this connection and create this final part with a rich discussion. So now is the moment. So is the Tessa Moroder moment. We are really interested in discovering more about Lottozero. So Tessa, the stage is yours.
Perfect. I'm gonna share my screen with you. Let me know if you see it in full screen.
It's perfect.
Perfect. So hello everyone, I'm Tessa from Lottozero Textile Laboratories. Domenico did an outstanding job in presenting us already, so let's get into the details a little bit. We're based in the city of Prato, Italy. A lot of people don't know the city, even though it's a very famous city inside the textile district. I would say that it's the biggest textile district in Europe. There are currently still 8,000 companies operating in the textile and fashion sector. I say currently because sadly with this coronavirus times, it could change very soon. The city was known to be the city of the 1,000 chimneys. Nowadays it's known, oh, won't move. Okay, it's known mainly because it was advanced in one of the things that are very important to us nowadays. So it did recycled fabrics, starting right after the Second World War. It's been collecting secondhand clothes from all over Europe and recycling, especially the wool, obviously, to use for new fabrics. So this makes it actually a city that was ahead of the times. And nowadays it's extremely important to continue with this kind of operation, to recycle these secondhand clothes and to use the fibers to create recycled fibers. What is our history? So we're inside a space, many spaces were abandoned in Prato in the crisis, first in the 80s, then in the 90s, and again after 2008. Our space was not a space dedicated to textiles. So we're one of the very few companies that took up a space that was dedicated to something entirely different. Ours was a warehouse for food, and had it become something that had to do with textiles. In 2014, we founded Lottozero, and we started work on this 400 square space. It's called stanzone in the Pratese language. So it's an empty space. As you can see, it was empty for about 40 years before we moved in and we refurbished it entirely. What we did in our space is we created a multi-dimensional creative hub. What does that mean? Well, the most important part, of course, we are a textile laboratory, so our most important part is the laboratory. We have the various techniques that are present inside our textile district. So what does that mean? There's 8,000 companies working in textiles. We recreate on a smaller scale, obviously, the techniques that are present in the district. That means we almost use the district as a diffuse laboratory for what we do inside Lottozero. These are some pictures of our laboratory. As you can see, a lot of people working in it. We have a variety of techniques. I'm not going to mention them all right now. Another part that we have, it's very common for creative hubs, we have a classic co-working, which in our case is also a shared studio because we have a lot of artists working with textile, we have designers. It's not the classical co-working with seats and desks. We have the very classic amenities, a kitchen for our co-workers. We also have a textile and fabric library, which we're incredibly proud of. We've been collecting a variety of books in the years, and we think we have a very special collection currently ongoing. Obviously, it's growing as we speak. We have an area that is our exhibition area. We called it with the German name, the Kunsthalle. We use it obviously for before coronavirus times, we use it for events. This is a very fun event that we did twice in a row, which was the Fashion Revolution Fair. A lot of people know what Fashion Revolution is. Here we invited tailors and designers who auto produce, and we invited people to actually learn how things are made from the fabric to the final product. And they had the opportunity to order for themselves as well. As soon as coronavirus is over, we hope to do events once again. But we also use the space for our exhibitions. We periodically present work that are artists or that are artists that we either work with or scout. They either created in our space or it's presented there. It's done on a periodic basis. I would say maybe 1 or 2 exhibitions a year. Okay, so this is the space, the physical space. Obviously, in the last year, it hasn't been used as much as we would like it, but a lot of the activities have continued nevertheless. Obviously, one of the most important activities is a variety of workshops where we either teach or we invite people to teach their specific textile techniques. In this case, it's a shibori workshop that we held, I think, at the end of 2019. This is also a workshop that we really love. We basically use discarded items, trash, to create fabric and textiles. It's been a great success. We've brought it all over. We don't only do workshops in our space, but we bring them to other creative hubs. We bring them to schools. We bring them all over Europe. Another very important activity for Lottozero is the creative residencies. We have two types of residencies. I'll talk about the second type later. The creative residencies is very important because what we're trying to do with Lottozero is we're trying to bring young, interesting, motivated designers to come to the textile district of Prato and bring their know-how, bring their knowledge, bring their innovation, bring their vision to the textile district. So for example, in this particular case where you see in this picture, we have a young designer from RCA Textiles, Lizzie Stuyvesant, who came and collaborated with one of the most distinguished companies of the textile sector in Prato. And the end product that was created through this residency was then shown in a variety of places, under which also Première Vision in Paris. So this is one of our main activities. And obviously this is an activity which continues even through coronavirus times. And it's very important for us. The other type of residency is an artistic residency. Obviously we work with artists that use the textile matter in a variety of ways. And oftentimes they don't have the know-how, they don't have the connections, and we create that kind of connection. We create a connection between artists and companies, which can either become their sponsors, but they can also become the people that commission a work or that create the input for the artist in its creation. So this is a great part of our work, and we love doing this. We also create textile tours of the district. We think it's very important that people understand how things are made and where they are made. So this is one of our absolute favorite things to do. We bring people to Prato, or we used to bring people to Prato. This is a little more difficult with coronavirus. And we show them around the textile district. We show them how are things made and why, and what is the cost of making things, and who makes your things. You know, this is a very important part, not just for designers, but also for consumers. Since the coronavirus, we have moved a lot of our activities online. This has been somehow a blessing. I'll talk more about that later, but it's also been a challenge. Two of the most important things we do, obviously the online workshops, they're not as great as real life workshops, especially since we use a matter that you need to touch. But they've had a great success, and obviously it allows people from all over the world to join us, which is interesting. Also, we've really used the time to grow our online community. So we've really started to present who the people are that we work with, what matters to them, what do they do. Our online community comes from all over the world, and this has been a great opportunity to create exchanges between the people that are surrounding Lottozero. This is a brand new project. I'm presenting it today to you for the first time. We do talent scouting. We've done it in a million different ways in the past 4 or 5 years, but on the 24th of April, we will be launching a brand new project for Lottozero, which is called The Directory. It's in Italian because it was financed by the Italian Agency for Cooperation, and it is a list of 100 designers that operate in a sustainable manner, and they're all Italian. So I think it gives us the chance to show what Italy is outside from the fashion world that we all know. I'm really excited for people to come see this. As I said, we're launching on the 24th of April, and I really hope we give this young designers brand new opportunities that they wouldn't have had without our help. The last thing that we do online is we have an online store. We haven't pushed this a lot in the past because, as you can see, we do a lot of things, but it's very important for us to show what types of products. I've picked the design part, but we have fashion, we have crafts, and we have our Lottozero products that are created inside our laboratories. I think it's very important to show what we think good quality, sustainable products are, and that's what we use the store for. I think we'll push it more in the future. Okay, so this was the part that was more related to what we do as a creative hub, but we also work as a a textile service agency. That means we provide a variety of service for our target audience and our customers. We have a design office, an agency and product management office, research office. We do teaching and we do curatorship. The design office is mainly for bigger companies that might need interesting inputs, that need a variety of services. We do this either on our own or we recruit in our community to find the ideal person to cover these activities. We do agency and product management because we want to bring more production to Prato. We want to show people what the potential of Prato is. We want to show people that they can actually produce in a city like Prato. There's so many opportunities. So this is definitely the part that focuses mainly on bringing the production to the textile district of Prato. We do a lot of research. Obviously, that's why we have the laboratory. Many times companies, they're very busy in their everyday production, so they cannot do the more experimental part of the work. So we do that in our laboratory and we go to the companies when we have something powerful to show them. We teach mainly in Italy. The most important schools that we teach is NABA, Istituto Marangoni in Florence, Yed Moda, both in Florence and in Florence. And then recently, I'm talking about October 2020, we launched in collaboration with the Academy of Fine Arts in Syracuse. We launched a textile design bachelor course, which lasts 3 years, where the course leaders it's done online this year, but the idea was that the students would come to the Prato district for 1 semester. That's not going to happen this year, but we hope for it to happen in the next years. And it's definitely a collaboration that we really enjoy because we do the whole curriculum. Our last activity, but not least, is the curatorship work we do. We do this both for museums. On your right, you see a project that we did for the Museum, the Contemporary Art Museum in Bolzano. On the left, a project that we did in collaboration with Villa Romana in Florence. But we also do design curatorship of all different kinds, always in the textile field. So let's come to our projects. Here I chose this picture because this picture shows an archive that we have inside Lottozero. It was an archive from a textile company that sadly had to shut down. The archive was divided in 3 different parts. One part was given to us, one part was given to the Textile Museum in Prato, and one part was given to a school in Prato. I will tell you what we're doing with it in just a moment. But first, let's talk about another one of our very important projects. Most of our projects have their birthstone in our region. So what does that mean? In this case, what we're doing is we're using so-called rustic wool, which is the wool from sheep that is used in the meat or cheese industry, the famous pecorino, and which is currently a byproduct of this industry and gets discarded. It gets thrown away into the landfill. And we're trying to find ways to use it, not in the fashion textile sector, but in the interior design sector. We've been participating in a lot of European projects to get funding for this idea. And we have made progress. So we've created thread counts. We started to create a couple of very interesting products. One of them is, for example, this curtain that we made in collaboration with the weaving company of our region. And we made this curtain for wine cellar in the northern region of Italy, so in the Bolzano region of Italy. So we have this idea that this wool has a very high potential. It can be used in the future, and we just have to find the right products and do the right prototyping and bring it into production. Another of our projects, and here we come back to the archive, we've developed this teaching module thanks to a financing which we received from the Creative Flip program. This project is called My Personal Heritage, and what we're doing is we're teaching young designers how to use heritage for the basis of their future creation. So we think it's a very important project, not just because it can be used obviously in the textile field. There is so much archive in the textile field, and it probably will go to waste in the future if we don't teach young designers how to work with it and how to use it. But it can be used in any type of archive, and especially nowadays with coronavirus, where we cannot travel, with archives that are oftentimes very delicate, they cannot be touched. We've created this module to be held 100% online. So our idea is currently to use it for what we have, our archives that we have at Lottozero, but we're trying to propose it to institutions. We're trying to propose it to museums. We're trying to propose it to institutions that have especially textile archives, and that want to not only do the basic steps of, for example, digitalizing them, but also want to create a community around them that will use these archives for new products or new projects. A project that we really love and that sadly we hadn't have funding to recreate it. We only did this once, but we really think it's a great idea and we want to continue in the future, is our Make It Here project. Basically 2 years ago for Fashion Revolution Week, we had an open call and we decided to, and the open call was for one designer to come to Prato and create one product of their new collection in Prato. We did this in collaboration with a huge textile company who also does tailoring in Prato. And this is the designer that won the competition, Rafael Couto from Switzerland. And he came to Prato and he worked with us and with this company for 3 weeks. It was an incredibly productive cooperation. And we really hope that we can continue with this project in the future. The more we become an incubator for younger brands and young designers, and the more we hope to attract funding and financing for these kind of projects, where these young designers are really helped not only to create their collection, but to do it in a way that is economically sustainable, environmentally sustainable, et cetera, et cetera. This is another picture. This is Raphael presenting his end product, or one of his end products, to the owners of the company and the people working at the company. Another project that we started just before the COVID crisis, but then I would have to say it really was perfect during the COVID crisis because it's a 100% online project, is a textile culture net. So we were invited by CHAT, which is a textile museum and textile center for textile culture in Hong Kong, to be part of their textile culture net. So what are we talking about? It's a group of institutions that work with culture and textiles. So it's us, the Textile Museum in Tilburg in the Netherlands, the Central Museum of Textiles in Łódź in Poland. And what we've created is a series of online exhibitions. They're only on Instagram for now. The project started as a no-budget project, a project that we're doing in our spare time, but it's having a tremendous amount of success. We're working with a lot of young artists. This is an art project. The artists are learning about each other. The cultures are mixing. So we definitely hope that this will have a lot of, or much more success in the future. It already was nominated by CIMAM in Barcelona as one of the innovative projects of the museum projects of the coronavirus times. So we're really hopeful that this project will continue in the future. And also it's amazing to have all these incredible institutions from all over the world. And we're open to opening it up to other institutions as well. One of our most important things, other than our community, is our networks. Well, obviously the Textile Culture Net that I just spoke about. Another network that's very important to us is the network of international schools. Obviously, it's mainly schools that deal with textiles and fashion. And last but not least, the European Creative Hubs Network. We're part of this network because we think it's the one closest to representing what we do. So a variety of different activities, a variety of different reasons to exist. And we're definitely very proud to have been part of the European Creative Hub Network from the beginning, basically. So I was asked to speak about the financials, and we do have an incredibly hard time securing financial help. We have a couple of sponsors, and as you can see, they're quite big names. They're technical sponsors usually, so they will maybe help us when we need a production. They will maybe give us some material for free, or they will, for example, some of them lend us their machinery to use in our laboratory and to experiment with. But we have a hard time securing our financial covering of our needs. We do not get any public funding other than smaller projects that we participate in. For example, cultural projects, exhibitions, but we're talking about small sums, I would say under 5,000 euros. We cannot personally participate in European projects at the moment. I'm saying this because I've been asked, so I think it's very important to talk about this, because we're not financially stable enough to participate as a partner in European projects. We have participated in a variety of projects that were mainly cascade funding, and it has been of a tremendous help, but obviously it doesn't cover all the costs of a place like Lottozero. So you would think there's a million people doing all this amazing things. No, we're a team of 4, and I'm working part-time because I have a small baby that cannot go to school because the schools are closed. Our team is composed by Alessandra Tempesti, our curator, Arianna Moroder, co-founder and creative director of Lottozero, Elena Ianeselli, design director of Lottozero and project manager, and me, I would say the CEO. I do mainly the administrative, the very boring things. That's all. These are our contacts. We use a lot of social media. I don't know why I didn't put it on here, but it's at Lottozero. That's our handle on all social media. So you can find us there. That's it.
Thank you, Tessa. Amazing presentation.
I'm sorry, am I still sharing?
No problem, no problem. I read on the chat a lot of congratulations, so amazing. Thanks, amazing presentation. So let's start now with the discussion. I think we have a lot of topics to address. I remember the attendees, you have the opportunity to make questions and comments. So Carlotta will be there to make us, a connection between all of your comments and questions. While you will be posting those questions, I have someone for you, Tessa. So let's start with so the connection you have with the academy, the universities. So you also mentioned. So we would like to know what they are looking with the collaboration with you. What do you think such educational institutions are asking, and what you can bring that they are not funding elsewhere?
Yes, I will speak especially about the project with the Academy of Fine Arts of Syracuse. Well, here we have a very visionary director, Alessandro Montel. He has based his entire programming on inviting young and upcoming designers to create the curriculum together with him. We think that this is incredibly courageous, especially, maybe outside of Italy, it's not very known, but in Italy, it's a well-known fact that usually academies of fine arts, they're very institutional places, they're very traditional places. So seeing an academy doing something as innovative as inviting a space like us, or they have other partners like Forma Fantasma, and it's just for us an honor even to be in the same category as them. I think that's very innovative. So I would say that if an academy has a visionary leader like Alessandro Montel, what they're looking for is a curriculum that speaks to people outside of the classic teaching dynamics. So a lot of on the field work, a lot of even the fact that they were willing to bring their students, or they are willing to bring their students from Syracuse to Prato to hold a semester there, to really get down and really study things from the inside, how they're done, how they're made, how they function. I think it's incredibly innovative. And not all places are like this, but I think a lot of places are getting there in time. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah. Yes. So I have a question. So let's go into some details about your model. So I can see that there are already some questions from the attendees about it. But we will start now with a general question, and then with Carlotta we go into the details. I see really interesting question. Now I'm interested in consultancy in general. If it's something that you already thought that will be from the beginning in your business model, or is more something that came up afterward during the activities you started, experimentation and connection? You realized that this could be an important part of your business model. So how came up, and how you think this kind of financing part or activity could help you to go ahead, and which kind of companies you address? Is more big company, small company, both of them? Just
No, it was always part of our business model. I think what we didn't think is that we would need to do that to finance the more cultural and creative parts. And I think we didn't realize how much actually there's need in Europe to support these young designers, young brands, and that they can afford consultation. So obviously, if as a political idea, if as an economical plan, a country has the idea to support young design and young designers, young brands, sustainable brands, then there needs to be funding in that direction. And I mean, that doesn't necessarily have to be funding for us, but it has to be funding for these smaller brands and smaller designers to be able to afford our services. If we have to do the services for free for them, we have to obviously create a business model that has kind of a foundation kind of program. And then we have to find ways to make money to then be able to afford to support young designers and young creatives. In this sense, maybe we didn't think that we would be doing that we would be the ones supporting these young designers. But I think we're fine with that as long as we are able to do it. Is that the question you asked me, or?
Yeah. So I know that now you will have more detailed question about it. So it's okay for now. I have a last question.
No, but can I add something? Just maybe it can be more clear. Obviously, one of our targets, we have a variety of targets doing all these different things, but one of our targets is a target that cannot afford our services. So one of our targets is definitely these young brands, young designers. And there we don't match. So they don't have the money to afford our services, and we currently don't have the money to give it to them for free.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, all the financing and the business model part is really important. So with our series, these webinars, we want to, offer different vision, helping, people that want to start this kind of project that we know is really difficult, but really exciting. So let's discover all the details. So Carlotta, before I give you the word, I have a last question. So it's about, you mentioned, Tessa, the pandemic situation. So you finally started a lot of online activities. So I would like to know more about it. So how you faced this situation? You already had a strong digital identity, strong online community. It's something that you create, during the pandemic. How was this situation?
Good questions. I never really had to think about this, but yeah, we definitely had a very strong online community. We've always done communication through our social media from the beginning, and we think it's one of our, it's our wealth, this people, these followers that we have, and this community that interacts between one and the other. But I don't think we have ever done anything systemically. And that's why, for example, the portraits of the people that are in our community have been so loved and also so interesting. And they've created job opportunities and they've created connections because we kind of systemized something that we were doing anyway on an unofficial manner. So we would do, for example, before we would do a post, we would do an Instagram post, we will take a couple of pictures in the studio and say, hey, check out our friend, look at the amazing stuff they're doing. but we didn't have a system to it. So I would say that especially the portraits have helped us find a system to promote our community better.
Yeah, this is important because sometimes when we are really, engaged in the everyday activities, sometimes we forget this how we structure this part of the project. So interesting. I think the pandemic moment, forced us to more in depth in this part. So Carlotta, I see that there are a lot of questions. So it's your time.
Yes, thank you very much, Tessa, for your presentation, which was amazing. People react very, very happy, and they are very interested in posing a lot of questions. It's amazing how your explanations show how this hub has diversified a lot of action, and so he built his resiliency, his capacity to collaborate with different actors. But there's a question that Zoe was asking, very practical, about how do you start such a project? Because at the beginning, I read some interviews that you are original from Bolzano, the north, and then you, the northern Italy, and then you kind of moved to a new places. So I was wondering how was important the relation that you established with the local context, if you have had help from the municipality, for example, in the refurbishment of the building. And because one of the main challenge of these initiatives, mostly if it's personal initiative, is to starting with what budget, which help you could have.
Yeah. Okay, so this is extremely weird because they used to ask us this question all the time in the beginning, and now it's been years that I haven't talked about it. So actually I feel strange talking about the very beginnings. But so what happened was this. Sadly, Arianna and I, we are the co-founders and we are sisters. Sadly, our mother died in 2012, and we inherited this empty space, this empty warehouse, which had belonged to my grandfather, our grandfather, who as well had died in 78, so also very young, and then it had been abandoned and just left there to not rot, but it had never been used in all this time. Arianna is a textile designer. She studied at Yet in Milano, she studied at Residency Schule in Berlin, and she studied at Rietveld Academy in Amsterdam. And I'm well, actually, I'm an economist, but I've always worked as a consultant. So that's what I was doing at the time. So when we saw this place, we really had the feeling, oh, we need to do something like this together. So, and Arianna, she knew that there was a very practical need for a space like ours, because she knew all the people that were running these small brands and that were trying to get these infos, and that needed the physical space, that needed the machinery, etc. And at the time, there was nothing quite like Lottozero. There were some spaces, public spaces, like the one that we always held up high in our ideals was the Tilburg Textile Museum and Textile Lab, which obviously is amazing. They do an amazing job. And we were like, oh, we wish we could do something like that. And so this is how we started. And I have to say, the beginning, it was hard. We're incredibly privileged. We did it all with personal financing. So it was our own personal money that we used in the beginning. We then won a variety of prizes. We won a very important prize in Italy. It's called the Culturability, which is for people who do urban regeneration through culture. And we won a variety of, like I said, cascade funding from the EU for various projects. But no, we haven't really received a lot of public funding, as I said. And this, I think it has been a problem, because obviously it made us move more slowly. It made us move, it made the projects that could have been done fast last longer. It could have, and a variety of issues. But we always had a lot of support from our local municipality. They were really interested in what we were doing. I mean, the support on paper was there. We've always collaborated very well with the schools, with the Textile Museum of Prato, which is an amazing museum, which if you go to Prato, you definitely have to visit. Oh yeah, Zoe is writing. Yes, basically, absolutely. Especially in Italy, there is absolutely no way to get any public funding or any resources that are not private as a starting point for a project like this. Absolutely. So private resources, definitely. And it still remains because we still, we don't have the funding to pay ourselves, not all of us. So a lot of the funding currently is human capital of ourselves as well. So that's a private resource as well.
Okay, interesting. Another question would be like, you realize that your model is very interesting and could be inspirational for a lot of other hubs and other groups, small groups that start initiate this kind of process. Yes. Would you used to do collaboration with other hubs that have this kind of project in Europe or in Italy? And also if you do consultancy about this kind of process that could be focused on textile, but also to other activities, because you are focused on art. I mean, you have an approach very broad to
so
textile.
What I've seen, so we opened in 2016, and we've started with the specifics of our textile district. So what would be interesting in our textile district to do what's missing in our textile district? What are the techniques? At the time, there was, well, like I said, I think there was really only Tilburg. I went to visit almost all at the time it was more fab labs that had a textile part. So I went to visit everything in Europe before we opened, and I really went to see what are they doing, what can we do as well. And after we opened, in the years after, a lot of other places opened or other creative hubs created a textile part in their hubs. And yeah, I've spoken to many of them. We've collaborated with some of them. I've helped some of them, or we've helped some of them set up. What I can really say as an advice is that this has to be a model that every textile hub decides for itself, because it's so specific to the situation. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was talking to two girls in Eindhoven who were, no, I'm sorry, in Utrecht. I'm sorry. I was talking to other people in Eindhoven, in Utrecht, and they were thinking of opening something like Lottozero. They had the financing from the town, from the city of Utrecht. In Utrecht, there's a very important textile museum and fashion museum as well. And so we were talking about what they needed there, and it became obvious right away that what they need is a totally different thing from what we do and what we need in Prato. So, and oftentimes it's complementary, because, for example, if they are incubating a couple of brands in Utrecht, they're going to need to come to Prato to then do the sourcing, to find the production partners, et cetera, et cetera. So actually all these hubs, I think they're extremely complementary, and I think they should have as a final mission, the mission to raise up the level of European manufacturing, to render it accessible to young brands and young designers, or even to companies, because oftentimes maybe companies, they produce elsewhere just because to them it's easier, or, well, obviously cheaper. We're not going to change that if that's why they're doing it. But sometimes it's just more simple. So we're trying to make it just as simple to produce it in Italy, in Prato, in Europe, anywhere that we know how things are done and how things are made.
Okay. Maybe a question about Prato, exactly the specificity of this place, which is, as you said, a very important center for textile, but still it remains a small city. So I was wondering if there were some, if you can tell us, I mean, the advantages and disadvantages of a small city. Of course, as you were presenting, is interesting because you really, I think the interesting aspect is that you concentrate in a place the global and the local challenges. Yes. But what are the advantages and disadvantages of a small city? If you can.
So I would say, well, First of all, maybe I should mention that for Italy, Prato is not a small city. Prato has 200,000 people, which is for Italy quite a big city. It's the third big city after Rome and Florence of the center of Italy. So it's very big for Italy. I mean, Italy is known for smaller cities. I think not the problem with Prato, but I think Prato is a little bit underestimated because it's so close to Florence and it's so close to many other places that are so high on the tourist level in the world, Siena, Lucca, Pisa. So I think for years it's been incredibly underestimated as a city. I think if people are more interested, well, obviously we work with designers, creatives, so they're interested in a different kind of tourism than your average tourist. I think that when people come to Prato, they really are amazed. They're amazed, well, first of all, by the city. The city is beautiful. The center is beautiful. There's a lot of cultural activity. There's the biggest a museum for contemporary art in Italy. So I think people, they really underestimate the city. They don't know it. When they come, they remain very pleasantly surprised. And obviously, apart from the classic tourist stuff, food, museum, center, there's then all this incredible textile district, which for our target is the most amazing thing they've ever seen in their lives. So we've really come to notice how young designers, young creatives, they come to Prato and they get inspired by the process. They find new inspiration there. So for us, that's a very important part of the work we do. And I think that everybody that came just left super enthusiastic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true that maybe the underestimation, it could be an advantage for some cities because people coming will stay astonished.
Yes,
Say, wow,
exactly.
I wouldn't expect this. Okay, so I have another question related to you presented a project that is circular wool. So it's a project that tried to take resources, local unused resources from the place, and create a new chain, production chain. And I was wondering, in a very practical way, how much prepared is the environment to initiate a new productive chain, because sustainability and circular economy are amazing things to start, but I think it could be a challenge in practical terms if there isn't a market or something. Could you tell us a little bit about this, if there were some challenges?
Should I tell you about all the challenges?
No, I mean...
well, I don't think it's a problem of the value chain. I mean, obviously, any project that is not a very standardized project, that is not a project that's big quantities, it's going to need a little bit of work. But this is what we're specialized in, having companies do the extra step and to do the work that they wouldn't be doing otherwise. So that, I wouldn't say it's a challenge for us. If I think about circular wool, I think maybe the challenge is more, once again, the money, because if we invest something, it's going to be our time and our human capital. I think it's hard because it has so many challenges, but if you ask me what's the main challenge, I can't even figure it out. Because you have on one side working with the breeders, so teaching them how to treat these animals in a way that the wool can be used and can be used in a productive manner. Then you have the creation of the whole value chain, the new supply chain that you have to build up. Then you have finding your production partners, because we're not going to start creating products. We work as what we have called it is an ingredient brand. We want circular wool to be something like Gore-Tex, like Teflon, like Intel. It's going inside the final product, and we're not going to be the ones creating the final product. So we're finding our partners, which we call our host brands, and we're developing the final product together with them. So it's also trying to have a good relationship with them, trying to, convince them to invest in work and prototyping into something that they don't know if it's going to work in the end. They don't know if the customer is going to buy it. But for now, the reception has been amazing. Everybody's interested in this material, and it's just a question of doing enough tests, doing enough prototyping, adding high value in the impactful design, trying to find production ways that are very industrial and therefore very technological, that put down the cost. I would say that these are the main challenges. Have I been clear, or?
Yeah, I understand, which is that is an ongoing project. I mean, the very implementation of the project is still in the kickoff, right? It's not.
No, we've been working on it for 3 years. So we have the prototypes, we're working on them. We didn't launch it yet. It hasn't been launched yet, no.
Okay. I was wondering if we have more question. All the project about residency, how did they start? It was since the beginning that you were offering residency to artists and to young creators. It was something that came out from collaboration with schools. How does?
No, we've always, strangely enough, our crazy business plan hasn't changed that much, in the sense of that we founded Lottozero in 2014. That's the first time we wrote down all the activities we were planning on doing. And I don't think we've ever added or taken something away. So we have everything in there, even the famous list, the directory that we're doing now, we have that in our statute. I went back to read it and I was like, wow, we had written it down. We're doing something that's in our statute 7 years later. But I think we started, in a more unprofessional manner, if Sara asked this question, in a more unprofessional manner. So maybe in the beginning, the residents were people we knew a little better, people that we invited, but they didn't pay maybe in the beginning. So I think we started all the things we're doing, but not on the professional level that we have nowadays. The only thing we didn't have is the lab. We created the lab after we got that big funding that I was telling you about, so 2018. But we were working already with companies, et cetera, et cetera. So I can't really say what we did first. I can say what we didn't do. So the directory, it's brand new. So the list of young sustainable brands and designers, the lab, all that part came after 2018. What else did we not do? Exhibition.
No, maybe I think people that are in the chat would like to have maybe three things, three advice to new emerging textile hub. What are the 3 mistakes to avoid? Maybe, and 3 top advice.
Oh my God, that's really hard. I would say the top advice is...
You can say 4 if you want.
The mistakes to avoid. Ooh. I mean, I would definitely say don't count on public financing, which I thought we were going to get for sure, because I figured it's such a project that involves so many areas, like economical areas. We're bringing wealth to the companies. We're bringing wealth to the district. So I was 1000% sure that we would get funding also from the economic part of our local government, not just from the cultural part. Which then didn't turn out to be the case. I'm still surprised by that, but I would not be surprised anymore. So Sara is in Switzerland. Am I right? I would be less worried if I were in Switzerland about this part. So let's just say that. But what I would do is really to understand what your local needs are. What are the people around you doing? Find your community. That's the first thing. That's the first thing we did, is we had our Instagram. We would interact with people. We would go visit people. We would understand what the needs are. We would understand what the opportunities are. So really understand what your local community needs and wants and is willing to pay for. and understand what you can do with the other hubs as well, because I think a lot of things, they don't need to be doubled, in the sense of, if somebody has that connection to that machine, you don't need that same machine. I've seen people create textile labs with a bunch of machines, but that's it. So I don't think the investment in a bunch of machines is necessary right away. I would rather try to understand what's needed, what can be helpful. When I talk to these girls from Utrecht, what we, for example, noticed is that the know-how was the biggest problem for them. I mean, they had cool designers, they went to the best schools, but then they didn't know how to make anything. So what they would need is, for example, a hub that offers professionalizing workshops. So they need people to come to Utrecht and offer those workshops to their community, which is something that, for example, we don't need at all. Or we need more other types of workshops, like shibori dyeing and things like that. I don't know if I answered the question, but I think I did. Like I gave 4 tips and I gave 1 do not do.
Be brave, I would say. Also.
Yeah, but that's everything. You know, and what Zoe was saying, you know, it's really sad. We acknowledge our privilege every day. We acknowledge the fact that if we hadn't had this space, which we own, so we don't pay rent to ourselves, the money to refurbish it, our dad gave us this, you know. I mean, I think this needs to be said, because it's too easy to say, oh, wow, look at how cool, look at what they're doing, look at how amazing, they're doing great, but then to not acknowledge the privilege behind what you're doing. We don't, most of our time, we don't pay ourselves for our work. I mean, you have to be able to not be needing the money for your work. And that's pretty sad. You know, I think that these are huge problems that need to be addressed. And as much as I can afford maybe to not be paid as much or not be paid, that's not how I want to live, very simply.
Yeah, I think is, you know, with this, we can really close this fantastic session. So really rich and in the interesting session. Perfectly in time, I have to say as well. Rich of contributions from the attendees, so amazing. So when, you know, 1 hour goes by very fast, but I think we got a lot of inputs. We learned a lot with your explanation, your presentation, Tessa. So I would like just to remember the attendees that we will publish the recorded session on the Centrino website. So, you know, I see that some of them were asking about it. So we will be publishing even a summary with more details about the Lottozero. And finally, I would like to thank you, Tessa. Thank you, it was amazing.
Thank you.
And Carlotta, thank you for all the manage of the questions.
Thanks to the backstage also team that helped.
Yes, thanks the volumes backstage. Francesco is also there. Thanks to the communication support of YAC team. Nothing. So we close the session. Hopefully very soon we will have a new one. So goodbye. Thanks a lot.